Hello, in today's training we're going to be talking about how to set up your ORCID profile and connect it to SciENcv. SciENcv is used to create biosketches, such as for the NSF, NIH, and other proposals. Following NSPM 33, it's actually now a requirement to include your ORCID ID on biosketches for federal research proposals. But first, what is ORCID? Have you ever wondered if John Smith at University A is the same John Smith who was at University B a few years ago and who published that really interesting paper? ORCID is supposed to be the solution to this. It's a unique identifier that keeps track of your research outputs. And unlike your institutional email, your ORCID ID will stay the same even as you change affiliations and even if you change your name. It's also, as I said, now required on all federal research grant biosketches. So it's really a good idea to take the time to set it up, and since SciENcv can pull data from ORCID for your biosketch, to also take the time to get your data in there correctly. So let's start with that. This is the ORCID ID sign-in page. I'm going to assume you have an ID already, as I think most faculty do. If you really don't, you can use this link to register now for a new one. However, if you have an ORCID ID previously, do not try to create a second one. Even if you've lost your login information, even if you've lost access to the associate email account, work with them to recover your previous ORCID ID. Trust me, trying to create a second ORCID ID creates all sorts of problems. It's like trying to get a second social security number. Just don't do it. Okay, so if you have an ORCID ID already and you can't get into it, work with them. They will help you recover it. Okay, so let's say that you have an ORCID ID and you have access to it. You can also set it up to sign in through your institution, including with JMU's single sign-on, which is what I'm going to use now. So this is my ORCID profile. You can see up here on the left is my ORCID ID number. Unlike a social security number, this is public and there's no problems with that. In fact, in my field, we usually submit the ORCID ID when we submit our papers for publication. So there are different sections in ORCID ID you can fill out. We'll go through a few of them. I recommend filling out employment, where you've worked previously, your education and qualifications. I haven't filled out professional activities or embarrassingly funding. You can add that information here. The most important thing is the work section. This is where you're going to put your research outputs. If you have your research outputs already in here, great. If you need to add some, often they come in automatically from the publisher, but if not, you can use this add button. You can import works from other services. For example, if your field has some sort of database of its own that keeps track of your publications, you can add a work with the DOI. You can also add the work manually, so entering all of the information about the publisher, so on and so forth. That plus add button is where you can add, for example, education qualifications, as well as if you need to add extra employment or past previous employment. So since this is the data that we're going to draw on to make your biosketch, I would strongly recommend taking a few minutes just to make sure it is up to date and accurate. And feel free to pause the video while you do that. Okay, next we are going to talk about how to link your ORCID ID to your SciENcv account, which is what's used to create the biosketches. So SciENcv is run through the NIH, but it's used for a lot of different agencies. It doesn't matter what login you use. So you can use ERA Commons login, NSF login, or actually if you click this, you'll have more options down here. And you only have one SciENcv account. So even if you're doing an NIH application, if you have NSF login, you can use your NSF login, or vice versa. If you have an ERA Commons account and you're doing it as NSF proposal, it's fine to log into that. Either way will get you to your specific SciENcv account. Okay. So once you've logged into SciENcv, this is what it should look like. You may not have all of this information put in yet. Now, it used to be that under My Profile, your ORCID ID was listed right here, and you could enter your ORCID ID directly from My Profile with this button. They recently changed this, and so that's no longer how you link your ORCID ID to your SciENcv profile. Instead, the way to link it is to come up here to your account and then account settings. Okay, so this is actually your account settings for NCBI, because as I said, NCBI is the organization, the part of the NIH that runs SciEncv. So here's your email, and then the section that you want to pay attention to here is linked accounts. So you can see that I have my ERA Commons and my NSF linked to this. The key one is ORCID ID. So I actually already have my ORCID ID account linked here. If you don't, you're going to need to add it. So the way to do that is to go to Add Account, and then you'll select ORCID. You can search. I actually think it's not going to show up for me because it is already linked. Yeah, so if you haven't linked it already, if it's not in that list, it should show up in this list, and then you will click on it, and then it will ask you to log into your ORCID account. Once you do that, you should be able to come back here in SciEncv. You may have to log out and log back in, and you will see it here. Okay, I would recommend pausing this video, making sure that it's there, and then once you see that it's there, starting back up. If you're having problems doing this, please reach out to us in the Office of Research Development here at JMU. Okay, I'm going to assume you do that. One other thing I want to flag here is delegates. So if you need someone else to assist you with preparing your biosketch, you have someone who is doing that on your behalf. This is where you can add a delegate, someone who has the authority to prepare your biosketch or other current and pending support documents or similar. You will still have to log in to certify them. Delegates cannot certify their completion and accuracy on your behalf, but this is where you would do that. So I'm going to assume that you have your ORCID account linked, and then to get back to SciEncv, you're going to click up here. Okay, so how do we know if that worked? How do we actually go through and use it? So from our home page, how do we go about actually making any of our biosketch or our current and pending other support documents? So the thing to do is to click New Document, and you have all sorts of selections for document type. Okay. SciEncv, you can see that you have a DOE biosketch and current pending other support, NIH options, NSF options, USDA options. The current and pending and the biosketches are pretty similar depending for all of the different agencies. So for this example, I'm going to do the NSF biosketch. You can select your separate one. Okay, so NSF biosketch, and this is going to be my biosketch example. Okay, and the key thing here is we want to leverage the work that we've already done with ORCID. So we're going to select use an external source and then ORCID and then create. And it might take a minute or two while we create the document. Okay. When this is created, now sometimes, things don't always happen right. So you can see that it has some of my information here. It's required, that's what this red star means, but there's a problem, and that's what this red circle with the exclamation point means. It tells me I need to adjust something. So I can edit it, and you see that what it didn't manage to pull is my position title. Let me put that in, as well as the institution that I am currently at. One of the key things here is you can see that my ORCID ID is here. If you don't have your ORCID ID listed here, that probably means that there was some sort of mistake in linking them. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and save that, and you can see that my red circle is gone. ORCID ID is listed here. Okay, it was able to draw my professional preparation from ORCID, as well as my appointments and positions. And then here is the products section. So this is where we're also going to draw data from ORCID. So the way that we can do this is we select related products first, and it probably says nothing in here unless you use the NIH bibliography feature. What you're going to do is click ORCID, and now all of those research works that you put into ORCID should show here. And you can just select them by clicking the check boxes, and then continue, and they will automatically be put in here. Similar with other significant products. Then at the very bottom is the certification. So this is the bit where if you have delegated your authority to do SciEnccv, that is not going to be present. Their delegate cannot certify. So when you go to download your PDF, your biosketch that you are going to submit with your proposal, it's going to pop up a window asking you to certify this information. So you have to certify that it's current, accurate, and complete. You have to certify that you are not part of a malign foreign talent recruitment program. For the NSF, but not necessarily for other agencies right now, you also have to certify that you have met the research security training requirement. If you haven't done that, check out OSP's webpage. They will be able to help you with that. Okay, and then this download PDF is how you get your final biosketch. There are other documents that you can make in SciEnccv. The other one that's typically required is current and pending other support. So let's grab the NSF current and pending other support. And unfortunately, right now, we can't draw data from ORCID for this. That is supposed to be in progress. That's why I haven't put my funding on there yet. You can use an existing document. There is an option for XML files, but we're just going to do a blank document for right now. ORCID ID is already on there, even though we didn't draw data from it. And so here's this, and then that's where you enter all of your proposals and active projects, in-kind contributions, and then once everything's completed, you have the same certification to download. Okay, so I hope this helps you figure out how to use SciEnccv and importantly, how to set up and link your ORCID ID to it. If you're having any problems with SciEnccv with ORCID, please don't hesitate to reach out. We here in the Office of Research Development would be more than happy to work with you.